We are back here to talk about another episode of Rooster Fighter. I believe that is episode 11. Was that one more actually?
Yeah, this is episode 11.
Okay, so we're semi before the finale. How'd you feel about this episode? Big episode 11.
Absolutely fantastic episode. I did look back on the manga, and for some reason, I don't know what was the deal with this one, but there was like one change in the entire thing, and that was that they cut off Elizabeth defeating that devil that she was chasing,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't call her stupid. He keeps calling her a fool, is what it is. But I don't know why that was such a big change that they had to make. Who knows what it was supposed to be? But what it is that they cut off where she actually saves Kenji's dad, which I'm guessing they're kind of saving for the finale, I'm guessing. But even then, it's just kind of weird how we just see Elizabeth chasing him for just a little bit, and then that's just it. But I did think this episode overall was really good. Um, I will say when reading these chapters back when I was reading the series, this gave me huge Dragon Ball vibes with this whole episode just felt like a Dragon Ball episode, just to be honest with you. Because we have references to when, for instance, when Mario dies this episode, we get Kenji get his hidden potential to be revealed, kind of like how Krillin died and Goku got to Super Saiyan. And I think that's pretty cool in itself. And we also saw Kizuki of how awesome his power is and his hidden potential, how he's kind of got an ultra instinct to him where he can dodge attacks really quickly and smoothly. I just really love it when you have these powers that can dodge attacks that very quickly because it just shows that they're at their peak pretty much, and it just makes you wonder where they go from here. And I will say Kizuki's and Kenji's powers in this is literally the hype of their power. And I am glad that this season one is kind of leaving off on the hidden potential of their power where they're at their full power, their full extent at this point in the manga, pretty much until we know where they get that huge power up and during that training arc. Whatever they plan to do with that, I don't know yet because we haven't seen what the difference in their power is yet. I will also say I am kind of confused about. I was actually hoping this episode we would see a little bit more animated of uh, Mario helping Pyoko out of his head because that part was off screen in the manga, and I was like, oh, that's obviously something that they would probably do because I know Naruto does that kind of stuff, and Dragon Ball even does that, like where they sometimes take part of the episode to put a little bit of filler, but that filler isn't like just some joke or whatever. It's more of evolving the story. And I've always wondered how he was able to get Pyoko out of his head because, as we know, Pyoko kind of passed out after defeating the virus inside of Mario's head, which I think is kind of strange. Of can Mario actually put his whole giant hand inside of his ear? It's so confusing and everything of how he even got Pyoko out of it. And I'm guessing the people that were making the anime were like, okay, we have no idea how to explain this. Let's just do what the manga does. And I kind of think that's what kind of happened during all that. But it's still kind of weird how he was able to get Kyoko out of his head because she's inside of his brain, and literally the only way to get inside of a human brain is to open up their head. So how did she get out if she was passed out? It's just so confusing, and I just really thought we would actually see something out of it, like maybe have a joke where like he's trying to shake her out of his head, and he's shaking back and forth, and maybe trying to get her out, and then eventually she just falls out of there, just something fun and simple like that, like what this series really is, because at the end of the day, this is a comedy. This isn't supposed to be taken all the way seriously, but another thing I will say, they did Mario's death justice. I will say I did like how they did his death in this episode where he sacrificed his life because I always think whenever you do a sacrifice in an anime, it should be this big thing that happens. It should pull your heartstrings. And Mario was one of those characters in the manga that a lot of people got deeply attached to. And he was kind of their comfort character. And he was kind of the person that kind of gave us advice, really. Because if you look at the episodes and like really, if you are going through a hard time, just watch the episodes with Mario in it and where Mario is the focus, especially the episode where Kenji and Mario is by themselves. He gives really good advice about being alone and finding your purpose. I think he was a big inspiration for most people who were reading the manga. And who knows, maybe he actually helped someone out, which is crazy to think it would actually happen in a anime about chickens of all things and a comedy anime of all things. But it's actually just shows that this series isn't just haha funny all the time. It's actually has heart to it. And it really does. Now, I will say in the manga, while, and this is probably due to me just being a manga reader of the series, where I kind of knew it was happening. I was like, yeah, it's happening. I remember this part. And of course, I didn't cry. But when I read the manga, I cried. So I think what was the difference is that I knew what was going to happen, but I'm actually do wonder how many people did fall attached to Mario, like the manga readers did, and how many people actually felt like this was like their comfort character to the point where they did not want to see Mario die. They wanted to see him live. And I do think we could see some people actually looking back on this series like we see these YouTubers every now and then, like 5 years later or something, they'll make these videos on uh, the retrospective of this series, and you've had these retrospectives of like One Punch Man, Dragon Ball Z, just what their influence was, and just how niche of a genre they were doing, and what they did differently, and how they got popular and everything. Because and sometimes they even look at their downfall at times. I think this series will at one point get that because of how much is just in this series because it has pretty much almost everything that you would actually want. Uh, Another thing I would like to say is that I do like how I am kind of I I've always been kind of upset that the Pyoko stuff once it we're nearing like the end of like this part of the manga, it's just shoved away. And it's just like it was all for nothing and it was just set up for the next part of the manga. And I really felt like with Pyoko having a big focus at the beginning of this part and then eventually getting sidelined and then eventually being completely passed out and not being a part of the final fight, it kind of makes her development go down a bit. Because I've always had this problem with the manga of how they treat certain characters where they'll have a big focus in one part of the story and then eventually and while we're having like this fantastic dynamic with the characters that they just fade into the background. And Pyoko is like one of those characters that is just constantly just shoved in the background. And it's almost like this character was made just to make fun of like the innocent pretty much and all that. When I really think if the guy actually gave a little more in depth with Pyoko, I think it could have went all the way. And I think he was just too caught up that he was more interested in like the Kizuki stuff and the Kenji type of stuff. And I just really think Pyoko at some point in the manga really needs like her own like little story that needs to happen. But speaking of Kizuki, I will say them doing like showing like his powers and everything, I will say they did a better job of making the chickens, the background, the bully chickens in this one look way better because before they looked like completely generic chickens. They weren't animeified. They looked very realistic. They had the itty bitty chicken eyes, you know. They didn't have the expressive eyes that they had before. And this version, they decided to change the design where they were more stylized. And I think that kind of puts more like um, depth into them. And it just makes it where, yeah, not all of the background characters are going to have the solid black eyes because, you know, we had the baby chits in episode 2 with Pyoko, where Pyoko was the only one with the big giant eyes. The other ones just the same. And I really am wondering if this will continue on where we see more background characters more stylized than actual just regular old chickens. But I will say, from my understanding and my knowledge, which at this point, I've pretty much forgotten if they had. Well, I know for a fact they haven't done anything with what Kizuki's girlfriend has done, and she was introduced in like the manga in this way, and where she was a flashback character, and we don't know what has happened to her or what happened or anything like that. I think what would be honestly pretty cool is if that uh, female chicken was actually absorbed by the white demon. Then Kizuki and Kenji have something in common because as we as they grow as brothers together, we see more and more of how similar they are as people. Because as characters, they are very similar. While Kizuki is more kind and Kenji is more mean, they still have the same abilities. They still have the same stubbornness, and they both have the goal to pretty much stop these demons. Not only that, they both kind of had the same problem where, due to their father screwing around with other chickens, they just ended up being bullied by it, or they would, or like something bad was always happening because they were being made fun of because of it. And it just really shows how connected these characters are. As for Elizabeth, I am pretty surprised that because in the manga she does way more because earlier on she does like way more with Kizuki, and since she took away all that, it's almost like she's just standing there in the background most of the time. And that's another big problem I have with Elizabeth is that in this show she's mostly just standing around, and I really think they could have gave her a little bit more to do every now and then. But while she is fighting some of the time, most of the time she is just standing and just observing the fight and just watching. And it doesn't hit like how she is in the manga. She had a strong start at the beginning of the anime, but as we have been slowly getting towards the end, she's slowly become like the background character that you see interact, fight every once in a while here and there. But I will say, uh, after all that, the episode was really good and a good setup for the next episode. I have so many things I want to say about the next episode because of how much information I found out about it. And apparently, it's going to be like a few minutes longer than the average episode, where I even I saw that on the website and I was like, wait a minute. I saw on like the schedule for the next episode, they didn't even put it where it had like extra minutes on it. I actually looked back, they have fixed it on like the schedule where it has extra 2 minutes or something like that. And I was like, yeah, this really is supposed to be like a big epic finale. It's not like 40 minutes or something like that, but I do. It's like from what the website said, it said 34 minutes, but yet Adult Swim and My Sling is saying that it's 32 minutes, including uh, commercial breaks, which I am wondering if content is being cut out, which I would hate for that to happen because I think if any episode is going to be cut, it should not be the finale, because this finale, it says that it's supposed to have like a big post credit scene that he's in season 2. And while the Biz Media and Adult Swim has said nothing about a season 2, this could be an indicator that the studio is trying to say, yeah, we're making a season 2. But it's just that Viz Media and all that, they don't have, since they are the English owners of it and the international owners, they're not specifically supposed to say it. They're not supposed to announce it because they don't physically own it. It's literally the studio that is supposed to say it. And I think it's weird how, of all things that could have happened to figure this out, it was shown on the official website where I did not know they spoiled what each episode was about. I even looked at the actual thing, and each individual episode, it tells the exact plot of the major things that is going to happen. And I was like, that would be so bad if it was something like My Hero Academia final season. Because could you imagine someone going on the official website wanting to know more about this anime and then saying, oh, so you're saying Deku loses his arms and then Eri gets it, fixes it all back? I'm like, that would just be total spoilish. Like, it's kind of weird how things of this anime have been marketed and everything compared to others. And I think that kind of sums up what this show really is. It's weird in the sense that it's not like other anime, making the marketing not normal like other anime. I mean, we have the own creator doing all the marketing himself with Viz Media, and then you also have Adult Swim doing it, and then you have Hulu and Disney doing absolutely nothing, and then you have the studio who knows what they're doing with the actual stuff in Japan. Who knows if it's actually being marketed there or not? I kind of hope it is, but at the same time, you also got to remember there's other anime out there, and it's really all about which anime is really big right now. Because I could see something with stuff like ReZero airing right now. I think that would be more of a bigger marketing push since that's like the fourth season now, you know? Like, it's stuff like that that really gets to me. And I will say, it did say what the post credit scene was. I'm not gonna say it here because I think that is just too spoilish. Because I was like, it spoils the post credit scene. I was like, that's not good at all. You should not have to spoil the post credit scene of the episode. But anyway, I actually thought this episode was quite good, and that's all my thoughts on it.
And those are some good thoughts, to be honest. I was just gonna say, like, what my biggest thing is Kizuki. He's a Doric dude. He literally gets bullied, and then he lets his like little crush get beat up, and he runs away. And then Bro gets told by his father that he's gonna have to be one of the ones chosen to fight the demons. And Bro's like, I'm not built for this. I can't do it. His crush just doesn't like him. We don't really know why. And going back to it, you had the whole theory about maybe that one white demon was gonna end up using her kind of like Keiji's sister, but at the same time, it could also be brought up as another one of the roosters to join the team, theoretically, or chicken because it's female. Yeah, I gotta be more precise there. But I think that would also make sense that way that Elizabeth goes with Keiji and maybe introduce someone to Pyoko. Because at first I'm sitting there thinking, wait, is Pyoko gonna end up? But there's like an age gap, like a major one, and that's like the big thing that I was kind of thinking about. But it's sort of lined up in a better spot. I think the big thing is it's hard to write this many characters really early on, and giving them all the spotlight because you're gonna have obviously ones that are gonna be more in the background. But in a way, I felt like it was at least tried to do so. Elizabeth had like her own little stuff about her parents. She got her like little electrical blaster thing. Pinocchio, I guess, went out for a little bit and had a power up scene, which is a lot of mystery. The whole thing with Mario and how she actually he got her out of her head or whatever. It could be a flashback scene later on, whenever she's thinking about everything that got her to this point, sort of, including Pops and all of that. And we, I don't know, it could just happen as a random flashback, kind of like One Piece does. I don't know.
That is very true. Yeah, I can kind of see that due to like us not knowing what how uh KG even what happened to his father and everything. It just happened in a flashback. It could be something like that.
But overall, I wasn't like I'm not gonna say it's terrible. It's just pretty acceptable. You know, I was thinking about this too. This is probably going to be available for physical release, like most things Viz does. They love to market things as much as possible. This is going to be set up for a season two, even if it takes up time. It's eventually going to come on Toonami. It just makes too much sense, and Toonami's going to probably do it at all costs because Rooster, Toonami, Robot Chicken, it all just makes too much sense. Why would they not do it? Is kind of my big thing. What's going to come after this and everything else that's about to end? Well, we know one thing. My adventures with Superman. There's probably going to be at least one or two surprises on top of that. I'm kind of going off topic. Please, I do apologize, but you got to kind of think about the future now, not only the finale.
I do think. for Toonami going forward, how I would do it is, and I don't know why they haven't done this in like the past now, but I do think at some point Toonami needs to hook up with Warner Brothers of Japan. Warner Brothers of Japan needs to make an anime studio. They make their own anime, and then in the West, it goes straight to Toonami. That way, it's like you have original content, but you're also not having to spend money on it as well.
I do agree with that. That would be a really good idea. I'm tired of them making all these originals that don't always become something. You have Lazarus that may have won awards, but that is due to a AAA studio doing this project. The music was top quality, even like the visual type of stuff. But the story, it's kind of jumbled up, and that's because they're not really following anything along. And I feel like if Konami actually has something like it doesn't have to be Rooster Fighter. Like Rooster Fighter, I hate to say it. I don't know how they got it or what was the process of it. It was risky. It was really risky compared to them making an original, if that makes sense. Because you can see somewhat flaws in it, but this is probably one of the better things they've aired in a while as far as like a new premiere series on Toonami.
I do really agree with that, but another thing that I will say about that is that the the one thing I think the whole reason why Lazarus even won the award for original series because it wasn't based on a manga, because most of the series that it was going up against were kind of nothing anime that nobody talked about. Lazarus was like the only one people were talking about, and that was because it was a Toonami original. People were like, "Oh, I loved Ninja Kamui. Oh, let's see if they can continue the hype with Lazarus." And a lot of people were really disappointed with that series. And really, that was like the only original series that wasn't based off of an anime that really got any buzz towards it.
Hey, I hate to tell them Ninja Kamui is going to come back and it's going to be twice as good than ever before. Um, yeah, Lazarus, that ship landed and it's probably done. They may do a sequel. I kind of doubt it because why would you? You won your award. Why continue it on? It's like a one and done show. Rooster Fighter, on the other hand, there's potential. Toonami is going to have really no competition when it comes to picking this up. I don't think anyone else is going to go wild because there's so many other really great series that are about to begin. Kakurabachi and a bunch of other stuff was that like 2027? We got to think that far in advance, pretty much, when it comes to anime, because everything that's set in stone, it's gonna already come out this year. I don't. I'm sounding crazy. You know a little more about that. You can kind of give your take on it.
Yeah, a lot of things that are like coming out like next year. Like this year, I will say is a little more lackluster when it comes to anime, but next year it's gonna be like sequel of second season after second season, final season, second season, all that. And I do wonder, like, at some point we do. I think since this is doing so well and like this is like off the charts, it's trending on Twitter, all over the social medias and everything. I think that's what's gonna make Adult Swim be like, can we make a partnership with Viz where like once a year or like twice a year we get one of their dubs and put it on the block and premiere it while it's ongoing and everything. And I do wonder if we could see that happening. I know that would be kind of risky, like you said, but I do think there is potential in it. Like, for instance, you never know, they might want to do something like show like Boruto Part 2 with Viz Media. Like Naruto was like that the thing that made it so popular was because of all the buzz that was on Toonami. What better way to make Boruto's return than with coming straight to Toonami, or another original Viz Mia anime or whatever. I think whatever happens with it, I think Viz is noticing a pattern with how marketed it is with Toonami and everything, because they are willing to put like whatever series on Toonami. I mean, most of the series that is like new and everything, it's dubbed by Viz. So whether you hate Viz or not, you can't uh, deny that this is going to make a big impact to Toonami as a whole, because they usually stick with what works. For instance, Ninja Kamui was one of those that actually worked. It actually got them all that buzz, and people actually went back to cable just to watch the series and watched it on Toonami and everything, just for nostalgia purposes and everything, and how good the anime was. And while it did have its downfall, it did make Toonami have so many views on Toonami, on the Toonami block. And, you know, that's why it's getting like 3 seasons. And with Rooster Fire looking like it's doing very well, I could see it doing numbers for them that they want to do more with Viz as a whole. I think Viz is like the thing that they're going to go towards now, that rather than go for like their original anime, probably. But I think that would be kind of bad. And for example, one thing I do like about Toonami, and the thing that I was kind of sad that we weren't getting with Rooster Fire, is that I liked how Toonami made their own dubs. And when they made their own dubs, they actually had voices that were unique and that weren't part of Crunchyroll, weren't part uh, of Viz. Most of the time, these were like up and coming voice actors that were working on other Adult Swim shows that they were voice acting for, or they would get like something from other cartoons on Cartoon Network or something. Like, I thought that was more interesting. And not only that, you had Steve Blum and the voice of Sarah, where both of them would they had a whole thing where they would show up as some background character and he would have his like normal calm voice, because that's just his normal voice. And I don't know, just something about that was like so cool and everything, because like it just made you be like, okay, what is Steve Blum going to be in next? What character is going to be in next? And another thing is that you were also like, well, I wonder which actors they're going to pick this time, because it was actually a gamble, because you had no idea what it was going to be. Nowadays, especially with Crunchyroll, almost when you see a character model, you can tell what their voice is going to be. If they are a short, skimpy little girl, it's going to have a soft, light-hearted voice that is just supposed to sound cute. Or if it's some guy with a beard, it's supposed to have like a really deep, grady voice. Like, it's so predictable with Crunchyroll. Viz is a little bit better with things where like their voice actors actually alter their voices a little bit, where it's kind of harder to notice who they're playing and everything. Like, for instance, there's voices in Blue Lock that are way different from things from Tokyo Revengers. And both of them are dubbed by Viz. And with both,
All those series are Viz, aren't they? Including Bleach. That's crazy. They must have a
yeah,
contract.
yeah. What it is that Viz is like very easy to get anime from because of how much they like to license their stuff, as opposed to if it was Crunchyroll, because they have their own streaming service. They want you to be more like, I want to watch it on the streaming service. because they feel like if you put it on Toonami, then people are going to watch it on their cable and not buy our streaming service.
Mm,
And that's why they put like a high price point on those as well. So they like that's why right now the only Crunchyroll anime that they have is One Piece. That is it, because the only thing is that they started back on the Cartoon Network block of Toonami and they never finished it, but they're trying to do what they did with Naruto, where by putting Naruto Shippuden on there and Boruto, they're trying to finish out that series. And they were trying to do it with Bleach. They're trying to do it with One Piece as well. And uh, Toonami does what Toonami does, and I cannot blame them. But that is mostly why you get so many Viz type stuff. Although I am kind of hoping at some point we get something like what was it that 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 dub was give me a minute.
yeah, take it up. I was looking at some of their upcoming stuff
Bang
too.
Zoom.
Benzoom.
Bang Zoom.
Bang Zoom.
That that dubbing studio is a good dubbing studio because they mostly dub stuff for like Netflix and stuff, but
Mm,
they are absolutely great because they do like Don, they do Sakamoto Days, they do Rama 1.5 the remake. I think all of the like I do hope eventually we get more like uh of that dubbing studio, but I do like Viz as well. But I am hoping to see a hopeful future with Toonami as a whole after like the series is done, because from what it looks like, we are only getting like for the originals, we're only getting My Adventures with Superman season 3, and we're getting Rooster Fighter, and that's pretty much it. Which, of course, we mostly get like Toonami originals per year, sometimes 3, but it is pretty sad that we don't get one like for every season, like one for winter, one for spring, one for summer, one for fall. I think if we kept on making it where we got one series for each one, I think it would just be 10 times better. But they can do what they want to, whatever makes money, and that's really what it goes to, is what makes the money.
what makes the money is the ads. Just having something on the TV is a plus. It keeps people entertained in between the ad breaks. Um, that means most likely we'll get the rest of Tokyo Revengers and, well, eventually maybe the finale. Blue Lock Season 2. Uh, isn't that one on Hulu or something weird? I'd have to look into it a little more. But that's another one that they probably would air. Bleach, Thousand Year Blood War. It's been on break. But eventually it's going to come back and do the big finale. Don't know how many times they're going to be allowed to air it. Probably just once because Disney's going to want to keep it a good while. If Disney still has it. I don't know. It's been like passed around, it seems like, but I think Disney or Hulu's had it. It's so complicated these days.
Yeah, the thing with Viz is that they are like the rightful owners of that anime, and they will move it from Netflix to Hulu to Netflix to Hulu to Crunchyroll to Netflix to Hulu. Like they switch it out is what it is, because they're like, if we keep on moving it to each stream service, we get more money that way, because then they're wanting it, because of how popular the series is.
Yeah, it keeps people coming back to their services and brings them in a lot more money because they can keep switching it over. Um, Tokyo Revengers definitely, Blue Lock continuation, yes. Dan to Dan, I think they'll end up replaying it a few more times because they've been lucky to even have Dan to Dan in the first place. So they should take advantage of it, I feel like. My Adventures with Superman is gonna be like the big blockbuster thing that they got coming. Um, Not sure after that. That's where it's like originals might be on break for quite a while. But
Yeah. Unless we get Ninja Kamui next year. Who knows?
I feel like that will come up sooner. Like Ninja Kamui has some pretty sick lore. So if they can get like back into it and continue it on, I feel like some crazy stuff is gonna happen in these next two seasons.
Not only that, they left it open at like the last one where they made ninjas illegal. So that's what makes me more intrigued for season two because of what they said at the last one of the last lines where that police officer literally says, "Oh, well, I guess we're gonna have to file now a law where ninjas are now officially illegal." And I was like, "Oh, that." Because they were like, we are never gonna put ninjas for like the task force to help us assassinate criminals and everything. And I was like, now that's gonna be interesting seeing how Joe Logan is gonna end up having to stop uh these other ninjas that are in hiding while he has to be in hiding. It's just gonna be so interesting.
I think it'd be a banger. But coming back to Rooster Fighter, I gotta ask it. What would you rate episode 11?
I definitely would rate it a 9.7, mostly because the only problem I have with this is while the episode is really good, it did have some very slow moments at times where it's like they wanted to go faster, but then again, they wanted that big epic finale, so they were trying to hold back as much as they could.
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna give it 8.7. I've been a little bit disappointed, but whenever they killed off Mario, I liked him as a character. I didn't even realize he was like dead. And I get it, it's like a stepping stone for KG to get his powers. But is it really worth it to kill off a really cool demon character? It just feels so wrong. And it just doesn't feel like anything to me. That's like one of the big things. Kizuki, that little backstory, I know that's how it's written. I see some flaws in the writing, obviously, and the creator behind all this, he's had some time to think and make things a lot better, but you can see flaws in the writing a little bit. He's trying to balance all these different characters, and I feel like he brought him in too quickly. But at the same time, I feel like for a story like this, it is pretty necessary. It's a hard task, and he's slowly gonna have to dig himself out of a hole. But yeah, everything kind of comes down to the last episode. But so far, I'm gonna say it's good, but it's not like what makes it stand out is the rooster so far. Outside of that, can it go against other animes that are originals? It's kind of like that to me.
I totally agree with you on that one.
But I still think it's a fun series. It's just like what's been going on is like we started off, it was a comedy, now it's just a full on action. I mean, like, I guess they have like a little silly moment, but there's got to be more to it. There's got to be more. And this comes down to the writer. He's gonna have to dig himself out. It's gonna be like one of those things where it starts off crap. In a way, Naruto was a masterpiece, in a way, but it was kind of crappy at the same time. And it kind of got dug out of a hole slowly. This is the type of situation, and it's going to show perfectly how much this guy can grow.
Definitely, definitely. I will say I kind of do like the more comedy aspect of the series more than the action type stuff because I felt like that's what made the charm of it, and that's mostly why I kind of lost most interest in the manga a little bit, mostly to due to him getting a little too serious with the series, but maybe that's what makes what most people like about the series more than the goofy silly aspect. But honestly, I just prefer the comedy aspect way more than the serious stuff because we have enough serious anime and we have very little comedies nowadays, and I feel like we need more of that more than anything.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where I'm like, Would an original beat this? And I'm starting to think if we got another season of Ninja Kamui, it could probably be just as good or even better than this series. And it's not the anime's fault. It's just Toonami took a risk on something that is an actual manga, and it just so happens to be. I'm not gonna say it's in the middle. It's like it is good. Like at heart, it is good, but it just the way that it started off, it's kind of one of those rough situations, but you can kind of get into it in a sense. I don't know the exact like words and thoughts for it, but you kind of get what I'm saying. It just feels kind of eh.
Yeah, it's definitely not trying to be the next Attack on Titan. Just
No,
so everybody knows.
no. Like, and I don't think that's what people come here for. They come for funny rooster chickens and some action on the side, and the writers just gotta learn how to balance it, give these characters some arcs, and just make things kind of better from here on out. Second season, it's gonna have to like blow people absolutely away for them to want to give into the series. Because even season one, it's like one of those things like you're gonna see the roosters, you're gonna be like, "Huh, that's the reason I'm gonna watch it." Outside of that, how many episodes are people gonna endure? Because like one of the reasons I'm saddled down to this is because it's a Toonami original. Would I support it outside of that? I'm like I'm like a 7 out of 10 on if I would support it outside of it being a Toonami or like on Toonami as a premiere.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna support it no matter what because I'm a manga lover of it, but I can see a lot of people, even though it's on Toonami, a lot of people don't watch it, because it's either because they're just not into this type of series or they don't like the certain type of animation they use. Like it's just different things that people are like. And not only that, people have a bad taste in their mouth after what Lazarus did.
Yes, but I also feel like the big thing is people have been spoiled with such great series and such great writers. It's just like stuff like this, it's hard to stand out in the anime world. It's weird because we went from like soul leveling to MAJ, ReZero. It's like everything now it's based off of there being these like triple A animes and all these like smaller ones. It's hard for them to compete. And I don't know. Even the manga itself, I can see some flaws in it, but it's probably one of those things where you would read it. It could have been adapted a bit better, but I think they did the job at hand. I'm just going in circles at this point. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I like it. I like it. Do I like it enough to give it a good rating? I mean, I'm gonna give it a good one, but not like a perfect one. It's obviously got flaws, and that's just a given. So.
Yeah.
That's my kind of take on it. Got anything else to add? I'm kind of all over the place at this point.
No, I'm all good.
Okay. With that, we'd like to know what your guys' thoughts are on Rooster Fighter Episode 11. Hope you guys stay safe. Until next time. Peace out, guys.
Peace out, guys.